Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Charmer Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile. Wanted to bring you all this deck profile for quite some time now. The biggest thing with working with the Charmer deck is I didn't really know the best way to go about building a deck to incorporate all the Charmer and the Possessed monsters. The Possessed monsters being the basically evolved forms of all the different Charmer monsters. We also had the release of the Charmer Link monster in the Savage Strike booster packs. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to try and focus on a Charmer deck just to see how well the deck could do. We also are missing, I think, one spell card that works very, very well with the Possessed and Charmer monsters. We have the Trap card. So, all together, with them being spellcasters and the other cards we have for the deck, I was able to whip up something which I think is a lot of fun for sure. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off, for the Charmer monsters being the level 3 monsters, I run 2 Heeta the Fire Charmer. You can take control of one fire monster your opponent's side of the field when it is flipped, and for as long as this card remains face up on the field, you have control of that monster. All the Charmers share the same effect based on the type of attribute they are. So Heeta being the fact that you use her to take control of fire monsters. I decided to run 2 of her in the deck, one for the fact that she's the only one that has a Link monster so far, and the fact that Salmon Greats are a new and upcoming deck, so you can expect to see a lot of fire monsters going all over. So I thought she's definitely good for a main one for sure, but your numbers can vary and the ratios can be depending on what kind of decks you see the most of around where you play cards, obviously. So you can mix and match those numbers for the best that you think for your Charmer deck. I also run 2 Dark, the Dark Charmer. With this one, same effect as Heeta, just being a dark monster you take control of. I decided to run 2 of him as well, just for the fact that darks do pop up a lot, whether it be with the danger cards, you name it. Dark monsters can be found in a lot of decks, so decided 2 of him was also good, just being able to get those options. And then with the Possessed effects, which we'll get to, just having that monster to use to special summon them out is a very big key play of the deck as well. And then for the one-ofs, I have 1 Asa, 1 Area, and 1 Win for the last of the flip monsters. I don't have Lina in the deck. I don't remember how you properly pronounce it, but if you want to mix around some of your other numbers with the Charmer monsters, you can try and throw in room for one of her, or if there are any attributes that you didn't want to run, you can try taking those out as well. Just the numbers I thought best to try out, obviously for all the different ones that we do run in the deck. And then for the familiar Possessed monsters, I run 1 of each, so 1 Heeta, 1 Area, 1 Win, 1 Asa, 1 Dark, and also 1 Lina. They all have the effect you can special summon this card from your hand or deck by sending 1 face up of their own, earlier level 3 copies face up to the graveyard. And when summoned this way, you can add 1 spellcaster type monster with 1500 defense from your deck to your hand, except for the familiar Possessed of whichever one they are. And if special summon this way, it can basically attack and have piercing. So you have some pretty good evolution cards to go with. The hardest thing I would say, and like I said, this is a fun deck, so when you can make it happen, definitely well worth it for sure, but you have to summon them to get the most benefit of their effects, obviously. So if you can gain control and have those same attribute cards to use from your opponent, works very, very well with the Charmers. But I only run 1-ofs for them just for the fact that they each individually have the same stats, and aside from that, you want to special summon them, they can be special summoned from the deck, so you don't really need any other numbers aside from them. So opening up 1 of them, helpful with all your other plays, and then just opening up the Charmers first is a definite key one to go for sure. And for the rest of the monsters, I also run 3 Fairy Tail Luna. Being a spellcaster, it just helps overall with more of the plays we want to do with the deck, and also when it is normal summon, you can add 1 spellcaster monster with 1850 attack from your deck to your hand, and once per turn you can target 1 face-up monster on the field your opponent controls, and your opponent can send 1 card with that monster's name from their deck or extract to the graveyard to negate this effect. Otherwise, return both this card and that monster to the hand. So the fact that it searches a monster with 1850 attack just gives us more search options for our familiar possessed monsters, or you can even just search out Luna herself. And the bounce effect, very, very helpful for sure. And the fact that she's also a spellcaster monster, meaning you can then, work with a lot of the other cards I'll show in the deck later on. And also, I run 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Now, this one, good, very, very good for the hand trap, but also for the fact that with our Link monster being Heeta, requiring 2 monsters, including a fire. If you want to go for her, having Ash Blossom as that additional fire just really, really does help. And for the fact that just with our Fire Charmer, we have more monsters if need be to use for it. Most of the time, I just prefer to use Ash Blossom for her own, stop search effect. But if you need that option available, it's why I decided to stick with fire as well, just having this option in the deck available to you. And I also run for a Kaiju lineup, which I find to be the best consistent wise to make sure your opponent has an attribute that you can gain control of. 4 of them. I run Kumi Mungus, 1 Gameciel, 1 Gardella, and 1 Dogoron. So if you wanted to mix around with some of the other ones for, like, let's say light and dark, you can do that as well. I just find 4 to be the best number. You can open up with them, tribute them, give them to your opponent, have your Charmer on your side of the field, flip it, and then have plenty of options to take the Kaiju you need, depending on which one you flipped up, obviously. So very, very helpful. It gets rid of pesky monsters your opponent may have, and then just have these options to go for. Even if you open them up, give your opponent the weaker one and attack over it. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I wanted to run 3, but sadly I only have 2 Secret Village of the spellcasters, so I'll show in just a sec what spell I would take out for it, because I run a very low spell count for the fact that we run this. If you control only a spellcaster monster, your opponent can activate spell cards. If you control no spellcasters, you can activate spells, which all the main cards in the deck that you usually run are the spellcasters, so very, very powerful card to shut down your opponent. And then the only drawback is obviously the Kaijus, but most of the time if I have my setup made and my opponent can't use spells, they're pretty locked down to begin with, and then I can just go from there with the monsters given to me. And I also run 2 Terraforming just to easily search out the Secret Village so I can use it. And also 1 Book of Moon to reflip my Charmers to reuse. I find very strong for sure if I end up using the monster I took for resources for other plays. And also, lastly, for these spells, 1 Monster Reborn. Now, I run this, you can special and reuse a lot of the monsters from the graveyard just for like extra deck extender plays. But if I were to take out a card for the 3rd Secret Village of the spellcasters, Monster Reborn would be the card I would remove, just for the fact that I have other special summon options available, and most of the time it's not the full focus of what the deck is about. And then that is it for the spells. Moving on to the traps, I run 3 Unpossessed. This is one of the Charmer cards we received. Like I said, we still need the spell card, but hopefully we'll get that eventually. Here's hoping maybe for dual power. Not 100% sure if that'll be for sure, but we can wait and see. Charmer monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. If a familiar possessed monster you control attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 800 attack. Enduring damage calc only. If a monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 spellcaster type monster with 1500 defense from your deck, whose attribute is different from at least one of those destroyed monsters' original attributes on the field, in attack position or face down defense. You can only use this effect of Unpossessed once per turn. Now this card, like I said, was made specifically for the Charmers and the possessed monsters, so being able to fully work this card with all of their their boosts for the piercing for the familiar possessed, and then just being able to summon out the different Charmers for special summoning, and then being able to protect them from being destroyed by battle means that you can successfully get their flip effects and not have to worry if like a big monster attacked into them. You'll still be able to have them on the field to resolve their take effect and then not lose the monster because it ended up being destroyed. And then I also run, I have the 1 DNA Transplant in here. I was debating how many I wanted to run, decided to keep it at 1. Just for the fact that you have other cards, including the Kaijus, to match up with your opponent's tributes, but being able to change them all to match on the field with, let's say, the specific Charmer you have, DNA Transplant definitely does come in handy for that. My weakness, I would say, and why I decided just to run 1 of it is because of the fact that if you do end up going for more of them, and you have just one attribute declared, you can't really do anything else with your other Charmers, since they, their attributes will change obviously with DNA Transplant on the field. And I also run 3 Rivalry of Warlords, just being able to control the one type of monster, so in that case being spellcaster types, really puts your opponent at a disadvantage, especially depending on what type of deck they are playing. And lastly, I also run just a small Solemn Brigade, just extra protection to make sure your opponent doesn't summon out anything that could either destroy your Charmers or go against the key plays that you wanted to do with them. So 1 Judgment, 1 Warning, and 2 Strike just definitely do help for all the different plays in the deck. And then that is it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra, I run 1 Heeta, the Fire Charmer, Ablaze. You need 2 monsters, including a Fire monster, which can easily be done with plenty of the cards you run in this deck. It's always treated as a Familiar Possessed, so it works very well with the Unpossessed trap card. And you can target 1 fire monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your zone this card points to. If this link summon card is destroyed by battle or destroyed by an opponent's card effect while it's in the owner's monster zone, you can add 1 fire type monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Heeta once per turn. So the fact that we run multiples of Heeta as well, great for the search, and just being able to take your opponent's fire monsters, depending on what they are, just being able to even take Ash Blossom if your opponent has it and then reuse it from the field. Another very key and powerful play, I would say, for sure with the deck. And then also, the rest of the extra deck is just pretty much generic to work with all the different ones we have. So 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Lamphonicus. I like this card in here. I tried Mrs. Radiant, Starboy, all the other ones, but the fact that we have just so many different attributes, Lamphonicus, just for an easier link summon, definitely does come in handy. And also 1 Topologic Trisbana and 1 Borreload for the link monsters. And then for the Exceed monsters, I run 1 Leviair and 1 Breaksword, just for the rank 3 plays when you can make them. And then for the rank 4s, I run 1 Gagaga Cowboy, 1 Exciton Knight, 1 Utopia, and Utopia the Lightning for those bigger plays, and also 1 Dark Rebellion Exceed Dragon, and 1 Perform Mage Trapeze Magician, since you need just 2 spellcaster type monsters to make this card for its double attack. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I was definitely happy I was finally able to make this deck. Can't wait for when we do get the spell to update it with that support as well. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.